Hello, amazing artists and fabulous friends. Welcome back to Don't Forget the Art. I am so excited that you are here, and I am super excited about this art project because we are going to be studying and celebrating Vincent van Gogh. As many of you know, Vincent van Gogh has been a favorite of mine ever since I was a young child. So anytime I have the opportunity to study him and his pieces more, and his art style and stuff like that, it gets me really, really excited. So this week is actually Mr. Van Gogh's birthday. His birthday was March 30th, 1853 was when he was born. He was a Dutch artist, and he was best known as a post-Impressionist artist. Although if you look through all of his pieces that he created approximately 2,100 art pieces in about a decade. And if you look at them, they range from realism to post-impressionism, even getting into some impressionism, modern art, and other things. He was actually, very interested in art and, sold art pieces and things like that. And I question sometimes if that is how he got into it. But he definitely left us behind some really interesting and unique art. And while he did not know fame while he was alive, he sold a couple pieces, but his fame and notice actually came, unfortunately, after he passed in 1890. But he definitely has changed the world and is, noticed as one of the most famous and influential figures in Western art, especially here in modern times. Just like many of the Impressionists and other artists that have come by, he is definitely one who has stood up through the test of time. His work and his style especially. So we are going to study Vincent van Gogh. Now, Van Gogh's works, his post-impressionism pieces, have a kind of pointillism kind of feel and vibe to it. Now, you may have remembered we did the pointillism with the Q-tips, and while his work is not done with tiny little dots, his work, much of it that you would know from his Starry Night to his sunflowers to his famous portraits and self-portraits, come with tiny brushstrokes, lots of different colors, and you can usually see the texture and brushstrokes through that. So we're going to play around with that. So today's piece is really going to probably be best done with paints. I am going to use acrylic paints. You could use colored pencil, markers, and things like that, and just kind of shift up the colors and show your work and textures. Don't blend those together. But I'm going to use acrylics. And now, while you don't have to use this, I did not. If you are looking for some of that texture like you can find in his work, you can add things to it like modeling paste or gel that's going to thicken up your acrylics, help to stretch them farther, and it'll help to give them that beautiful texture that you can see in Mr. Van Gogh's work. Now, I was most inspired by Van Gogh's for this piece, his Sunflowers and Starry Night. So I'm going to do kind of a mashup combination. I have actually had this idea in my head for this painting for a very, very long time. I just have not had an excuse to get along to do it. So I'm using this as my excuse to finally get to it. So for my colors for this piece, if you wanted to follow along, if you wanted to do one of your own, I am using titanium white, I'm using lemon yellow, I am using yellow medium, I am using yellow oxide, Indian yellow. The background for the sky, I'm using ultramarine blue, mostly cobalt blue, a little bit of this light blue, but to get this light blue, you can also use phthalo blue and white will get you this beautiful sky blue color. Prussian blue for some little accents here and there. If you don't have it, that's okay. Use like ultramarine blue and black, or you could even use like phthalo blue really thickly, but Prussian blue will give you this really, really dark blue color, you know, without having to add black into the mix. So you're kind of sticking with this blues and yellows kind of feel and vibe. For the center of my sunflowers and for the petals, so here's the petals. This is the sky. This is raw umber, burnt umber, raw sienna, and burnt sienna. Then to sketch it out, I am using a couple, some watercolor pencils. And I am only using 3 brushes with this because, again, I want to use short brush strokes. I'm also using a stretch canvas. I'm using a 12 by 16 for this one that I had. I'm gessoing it so that it has a nice finish. It's going to hold that paint real well. Cup and water. And palette, of course, palette knife in order to scrape it off. I'm not actually using the palette knife for this. You could, as far as I know, Mr. Van Gogh did not use palette knife. He used brushes. I am using for this a round 0, a flat number 2, and a flat number 4 brush. These are Master's Touches brushes. And that's it. So let's go to it and get this painting started, shall we? To create this piece, I started by sketching out what my idea was for this piece. I had thought about just doing one sunflower in order to create this and then have more space for the night sky. But I thought, you know, one sunflower is sad. So he needed a friend. And so I decided to go with 2. One kind of pointed off, like looking up at the moon, or what would be my moon. And then one kind of looking straight on at the viewer. I just thought that would make it a little bit more fun. And those 2 pieces right there, those 2 took up quite a bit of space, maybe about 60% of my canvas. And maybe I made them a little bit too big, don't care. I really kind of like the way that they turned out. Again, my thinking is now I would have gone with, or maybe if I was to do this again, going with a bigger canvas so that it would allow for more space up in the sky. But, you know, live and learn and, you know, make your happy little accidents and then try again. I then, after sketching out my sunflowers, went to my ultramarine blue. Oh, not just my sunflowers. I sketched out my moon too, so I could kind of keep that in place. I put yellow around the moon and I put the ultramarine blue around every place else. And I did it in kind of a circular motion. Again, Van Gogh's work is very textured. It is very thickly applied, and this was all done with oil paintings. So he painted with oil. It's very thick, very textured. I don't know how long his pieces took. I can only imagine how long it took to dry, because oils take a long time to dry, and as thickly as they were applied, it probably took a long time for those guys to dry. So once I had my blue down, now you could certainly do your flowers first. I went ahead and put the ultramarine blue down, and then I started kind of blocking out colors. So that was kind of where I was. I needed to jump in. I needed a starting point. So I started blocking in some colors. I started blocking in the sky. Then I went to the centers of my sunflowers and I blocked those in with a very dark color. I want to say I used raw umber or maybe burnt umber, pretty dark brown. And then I was going to go ahead and start blocking in the colors for the petals. Instead, I wound up just jumping right in and painting the petals. Now with the petals, I am using titanium white and lemon yellow. The titanium white is a little bit more for helping to kind of get a really bright color on those, on the petals as they are being put down, especially on the tips where that moonlight would hit them the most and shine on them. That was kind of my thinking. The other thing was when I put down the blue, there were places where, you know, the blue maybe went where the yellow was supposed to go or whatever. So this is where you kind of have to use your own judgment when you are painting this. Maybe I should have started with the petals. I think it was just a matter of me just needing to start someplace and just kind of color blocking in. But the titanium white will help to cover up my little happy little accidents, my little boo-boos there. And they will help to, you know, give that bright color on top of covering up the blue that went into the space where the yellow is. So that'll help. Titanium white is one of those wonderful colors where the wonderful paints that will cover over anything. It may take a couple layers. Lemon yellow is not going to do that. Most of your yellows are very translucent. So a little bit of titanium titanium white will help yellow to kind of punch through that. For the petals, I really wanted them to stand out as well. His, you know, to me, besides Vincent van Gogh's portraits, self-portraits, which he did many. I don't know off the top of my head how many he did. He also did other portraits of other people. Of course, did lots of landscapes, and just everyday scenes, scenes of his bedroom, scenes of fields, scenes of people working in the field, scenes of, you know, it seems like you name it, he did it. His portraits are just amazing. Self-portraits are amazing. And I think that, you know, I really wanted his sunflowers, another thing that he's really known for, his still life sunflowers. I really wanted mine to stand up, and I wanted them to have depth to them. So I have not done too many sunflowers. I've done them once before, and, you know, they were lacking depth. I didn't want to hear that at the time. I had just started back to painting a few years back, and it was one of my first paintings, and I kept hearing from many people that they just looked flat. I never finished that painting, and maybe now that I'm talking about it, I will go ahead and pull it back out. But one thing that's going to help you to give your flowers depth, to give your petals depth, and I know this now, didn't know it then, but hear me out. You want to use dark colors. At the time, I didn't want to hear this. I liked light colors, which is kind of funny because when I was painting years back before, everything was dark and black and dark. And now everything was very light when I started back. And, but it's going to help to give your petals a little bit of depth. It's going to help them to get that curved feel to them. If you put at the base where your petals and the flower meet, to put some really dark color right down there. So if I remember correctly, I used like a raw umber, really dark brown to kind of get that. And I even used some curved lines to kind of help the viewer to see that these petals are curved. They're kind of cupped. They curve in that center, and then they kind of straighten out at the top where the bright yellow medium colors. And I tried to do a blend. Again, probably not very Van Gogh-esque. He probably wouldn't have done that. But, you know, from the base where I did the very dark colors to you know, other colors of raw sienna, yellow oxide, Indian yellow, yellow medium, all the way up then to the lemon yellow at the top to try to give more interest and excitement to those petals. For the center of the sunflowers, I started out with that dark color and then, kind of swirled in different colors, yellow oxide, raw sienna, and burnt sienna to try to give those that feel of their seeds. This is circular. It feels kind of fun, loosey-goosey. Now, it's kind of funny because as much time as I spent on the petals, which was a while, those petals did take a little long. I will admit that there was a thought that went through my head maybe once or twice that said, why in the world did I make quite so many of them? But, that's okay. Once I got done with the petals, I moved on to that beautiful, beautiful sky. And with the sky, I used a combination of that ultramarine that was already down in the background. So I didn't really need to add too much of that. Some of that light blue, which again, you can use by mixing. You can mix it yourself if you mix a titanium white with some phthalo blue. I used cobalt blue, mostly cobalt blue with that, and some Prussian blue. Around the moon, I used white and lemon yellow, a little bit of the yellow medium here and there, but most of it was the white and lemon yellow. Swirled that around the moon and then went to town on kind of getting a swirl going in the background of my sunflowers. For the areas where there wasn't a swirl, I just simply used cobalt blue over the ultramarine blue that was already there, a little Prussian blue to kind of give that idea that this is a night sky and that it all was calm and peace, except for this little fun swirl that was going on the outside of it. And here is my finished product. Now, while I've already been critiqued a little bit by my wonderful critics that I have around here, that my sunflowers are not very Van Gogh-esque, lacking that streak. I actually kind of blended them pretty well. And while I'm kind of proud of myself for, you know, a day-to-day kind of painting type thing, maybe not very much Van Gogh. But I do like the fact that it does contrast nicely with the, you know, texture and movement of the sky. And while there's part of me that wished I actually had a bigger canvas to kind of have more room for that sky, might have to think about that next time, I am pleasantly surprised as to how it turned out. Now, I don't think it is 100% done yet with the drying. Once it's done, and I'm sure that I'm done, I am going to go ahead and sign it. I'm not sure where this time, but I really do like the way that this one turned out, and I hope that you get some inspiration from Mr. Vincent van Gogh and all of his amazing that was what I did and pictures that are out there, and he has a lot of them. Not all of them are his. As I mentioned before, he was kind of an artist seller. He sold different prints and paintings and things like that. Not his, but others, and was definitely inspired by it. We actually went to a museum exhibit. It was really interesting and had some of his journals, sketchbooks, and even some of the prints that he would take around with him to the different places that he lived over the years. They also say he had a photographic memory. So many of his paintings were painted in the last 2 years of his life. And as you may know, he was kind of in and out of hospitals with some, you know, some kind of issues, you know, mental issues. They say he painted from memory, that he just had this amazing memory, and scenes that he saw from years ago, he could just paint it as if he was standing right in front of it, which, you know, as an artist, that is pretty amazing. Not too many people can do that. But his legacy still lives on, even though he had a very short life. And I am incredibly thankful for his contribution to the art world and community. He is definitely still to this day a huge inspiration of mine, and I hope you find some inspiration from his works as well. I hope you have a great time creating something Van Gogh-esque, textured and fun and fancy-free, and enjoy the colors, enjoy the textures, enjoy the movement in painting, and find something awesome that's going to bring you joy, that's going to bring you inspiration, and that can help to share that joy and inspiration with others. Enjoy your day, guys. Enjoy your art session. I cannot wait to see it. If you do create something, be sure to share it. I would love to see it. You can either message me, or you can share it on social media. You can find me over at don'tforgettheart.com. You can find me on Instagram over at don'tforgettheart.com. You can also join our Facebook group and have some fun and get some creative juices flowing over there. Have fun all, and happy arting.